Nate Tice is here, Yahoo Sports. You know him, one of the best in the business. I found out right before we went on air, Nate, you don't even know this. I'm springing this on you. My producer, Miles, has never seen or even heard of the movie That Thing You Do. Yeah.
Really? The Oneaters?
Yeah, nothing. No recognition. He's binging the Wes Anderson catalog right now before that new one comes on.
Yes, the Phoenician.
But then I was gonna reference a line from. I was gonna reference when Steve Zahn says, "Where was I? Oh, that's right, playing music with my band." I was gonna say that, and I was like, "Well, of course you've seen That Thing You Do," and Miles had not seen it. And I feel like this is a national tragedy. I feel like when people talk about maybe the decline of America, it starts with people having not seen That Thing You Do.
It's a very American movie too. Tom Hanks.
It's the American movie. It's the American document.
Directed
movie. Yeah.
Also, the bass player is named TB Player. Because it stands for the bass player.
The bass player.
Which I always love, a little tidbit there. I love that movie. I reference the arms.
Yeah.
The first contest. Yeah. I do that.
Yeah.
I've used that reference a few times. One of my best friends, my best man at my wedding, Tommy, also a very good golfer, which you guys probably bond over. That's one of our movies that we quote to each other and reference to each other a lot.
That's what it's all about. Do you know, I bought the DVD when I was in high school. Do you know that Howie Long is in the extended version?
No. I mean, he didn't have to change his haircut.
He didn't. I'm going to say this. There's an entire plot point with Howie Long that was cut that changes one of the characters. I'm not going to say it. Anybody who's seen it?
I'm going to look into this.
Yeah, look into it. I don't want to spoil it. I almost spoiled Tenet on the Mina Kimes show a couple weeks ago.
It was fine.
Yeah, it's been a couple years. I tried to.
If you spoiled That Thing You Do for me.
Do you know the story about Robert Mays spoiling Uncut Gems on a podcast? No. I'm going to tell the whole story. And then Mina asked me what was happening. She was on the set, on the Ringer set that day for something else. And then I told her, and then I accidentally spoiled Uncut Gems for her. And then it became this whole loop of like, you can't tell the story. It was that I had said somebody's season ended really abruptly, like The Departed. Yeah. And Uncut Gems had just come out. And Robert was like, also like Uncut Gems. And everybody got really mad at him. And I hadn't seen the movie yet. So I didn't know to be like, whoa.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody got really mad at him. And then Mina was like, why is everybody online mad at Mace? And so then I said, oh, well, and I've told the full story. She said, I hadn't seen the movie. And then she got mad at me. And then it became an entire circle of this. All people
collateral
we
damage.
Yeah, no one meant it. No one was being malicious.
I know. My wife's husband has a bad habit of spoiling movies. Like, he's just so excited to talk about them. And for a while, I'd be like, he'd be like, oh, I went and saw blah, blah, blah. Like, I think the one that got me was he saw Solo, which isn't the end of the world. But he spoiled something in it, and I was like, well, I'm good. I don't need to see that.
I think you just said to your wife's husband. Did you mean your sister's husband?
I meant my wife's brother.
Okay.
Is what I meant to say. I mixed up the
veering into alt comedy if you were doing
I know, weird, right? Yeah, we're really veering over there.
All right. Here's what we're doing. I'm monitoring the College World Series Super Regionals because I would go to Omaha if Miami beats Louisville. So we're just going to do 30 minutes of college baseball.
Have you been?
Cool? No, not for that. I don't want to get too excited. I don't want to have all these clips about me, making plans for Omaha. And then all of a sudden we lose to Louisville this week.
2 years in a row, I've bought refundable tickets and hotel rooms to Minneapolis in case the Wolves made the finals and they've lost the Western Conference Finals.
I told my wife when we started dating, if the Magic make the East Finals, one-way ticket to Orlando, and I'm not coming back until there's some finality. Now that I have a 2-year-old, I don't know if that deal is still binding.
I don't know either. It's tough.
I'm going to play it by ear. The thing is that the Magic, they're not going to do it next year. So at some point he's going to be old enough to just come with me. And we can go to Disney on the off days or whatever. It was beautiful.
And then you imprint it like the 95 Mariners did for me. And then they go through a drought for 20 something years and you just have to live through it because they were good when you're 6 years old.
95 Magic too. 95
yeah. That's how it works.
All right. We're doing most important assistant hires of this cycle. We did it last year. We had some hits. We had some misses. One notable miss is both of us did not like Cliff Kingsbury's hire. And that has been thrown in our face a couple of times. I'm happy to be wrong. We had a bunch of hits. We were mostly right, by the way. But I will hand up. We were wrong about Cliff Kingsbury's hire last year. I thought that he was exactly what Caleb Williams needed. I don't think people were talking about. I said Caleb Williams. I meant Jaden Daniels. Obviously, Caleb Williams did not get what he needed. I don't know if anybody noticed that. He was exactly what Jaden Daniels needed. I think he's a better coordinator. People are comparing Jaden Daniels to CJ Stroud 2 years ago. Oh, how does he avoid this sophomore slump? Like, Cliff Kingsbury is a lot better than Bobby Slowick is. Cliff Kingsbury is not going to have lazy protection schemes. Cliff Kingsbury, by the way, he wanted to draft Josh Connerly very badly because I think he knew that an offensive line regressing is the best way to have a sophomore slump for a quarterback. So, like, I like the fundamentals here. So hand up, Cliff Kingsbury, good coordinator. We apologize, but we were mostly right on the other stuff. Nate Tice, you have the floor. Your first most important coordinator hire.
God, and this one feels it's just such name recognition, but I am extremely excited to see it. Again, it's Chip Kelly with the Raiders.
Yes, that's mine too. It's not my number one, but he's on my list.
That's one of my most exciting things. Even if the Raiders are a 7-win team this year, 8-win team this year, which I think is what they should be, I'm really excited just to see Chip Kelly back in the NFL as just a coordinator, which we have not seen, not the head coach. And I think they're going to kind of give him carte blanche, but he has a quarterback that can operate the stuff with Geno Smith. But I do think, the Genty pick, they're going to be run heavy. Yeah. I'm just looking for the creativity with the funkiness because they have a funky skill position roster. Yeah. Genty, Brock Bowers. Jack Bash that they draft from TCU, Brock Bowers. A lot of Jacoby Myers is even kind of funky because he's like a gritty receiver, that can do different things, auxiliary things. So they're going to run mesh a lot. There's going to be a lot of crossing routes with these guys, and I mean that in a good way. So, Chip Kelly, I just think this roster actually fits him, even if it's a little funky. I actually think the offensive line isn't absolutely garbage. I think it's more of just average-ish. And so I think this is going to be a fun, interesting offense on a quirky team that should be interesting.
There's a tell right now with whether or not you've watched Chip Kelly in the past, let's say a decade, and not known, and I've heard people say this, not known that frankly, they huddle. Now, Chip Kelly huddles.
Yes, they do. Yes, his no huddle rates. Yeah, great job, Kevin. Yeah, they do huddle.
He huddles.
I had a stat on it, so thank you.
Oh, great. The pace is much slower to go along with the huddle. It's not just the fact that they huddle. It's just they really do not rush to the line. A lot less 5 and 4 receiver sets than he did. We're comparing Oregon to Ohio State. Okay. Comparing the Eagles.
UCLA years were
Eagles. Yeah. Eagles to Ohio State would be tough and whatever, right? A lot less 4 and 5 receivers, more 2 tight end sets. Maybe that's just because you're in the Big Ten and that's just something you needed to do. With UCLA, I felt like, even though UCLA is a Big Ten school now, let's not get into that, but I felt he was a little bit lost in the wilderness. I think the recruiting changed on him. I thought that UCLA didn't have the magnetism that Oregon had. And you'd see a coach who wanted to be creative and couldn't do it. I think he felt like he was trapped by the modern recruiting game. And he had, and I don't know why he said this, but they lost some game and he starts giving kind of state of the union, state of college football answers about why things weren't going the way he thought. And at one point he was like, if it wasn't for recruiting, I would love to run the wing T. Like, he just said that at UCLA, and they like lost to Oregon State or something. Everybody's like, what the hell is going on here? But I feel like this is a guy who, once recruiting changed, all he wanted to do was call plays, and you could see it. And he just wanted to experiment and come up with man beaters. And a lot of these guys are like that, and a lot of these guys, this far more than I do, but it's not. Chip was so good at coming up with an offense at Oregon. He becomes head coach. He knows how to build the team. He becomes the head coach of the Eagles. Like, you're not going to say no to that stuff. But I know people in NFL buildings who are like, you know what? Being a position coach or being a coordinator is an amazing life. And I'm not going to hire the agent necessary to get head coaching offers. And in a lot of cases, it's funny, not that this is Chip. Like, I've heard people say they want to be a linebackers coach forever, or they want to be a tight ends coach forever because you get retained on the next staff. You're not if you're a good one, you kind of stick around more. You're never on the chopping block. Your kids are in school. They don't get made fun of if you lose 3 games in a row. Like, sometimes being a head coach isn't for everybody. And Chip Kelly was so good, and we thought he was going to revolutionize the sport. And in some ways he did, the way they practice, the way that they showed proof of concept with the spread offense. But Chip's coming back. He's more pro style. He's more pro ready than he was last time. Tell me about it.
I absolutely agree. And even we just kind of chuckled at the UCLA years, or kind of just said, it was an anomaly. Even there, it was interesting to see him try to innovate and try to be like, all right, this is what I got. All right, this is what I'm doing. Like, he would do funky stuff with the tight ends and have 3 tight ends lined up in a line, just trying to do run game stuff and to work with the personnel that they had. Zach Charbonnet was one of his best players they had. So they ran the crap the ball, which is Zach Charbonnet, crap out of the ball, which is Zach Charbonnet. And you look at his UCLA teams, they're running the ball over 40 times every year, or like 40 times a game, I should say, every single year. And that's where I love that you just said that he has kind of found a balance, or maybe a pro style, that more than the super spread, super blur offensive stuff, which really some of his concepts have become staples in the NFL, or how he got to them. Because so many of these people are just like, oh, that works. Do Y crosses. He loves that. He loves variations of that, post route and over route and dig route. And he would call it the Peter and Paul series, the Saints series. And that's how you label it. And I'll see people's playbooks and I see it called the Saints series. I'm like, oh, so people are just straight up copying this from Chip, like not even just calling it something different or anything. No, but what you're saying too, with the Ohio State stuff, there's some under center. There was, you look at the 49ers, Chip Kelly, they're under center, no huddle every single play. We brought up Cliff Kingsbury just a minute ago. Cliff Kingsbury is bringing back no huddle to the NFL and to some success from it. And his numbers are still dwarfed by what Chip Kelly was doing with the Eagles and 49ers. That's how fast they were going. So I love that you're saying that he kind of slowed it down and has found a balance between, okay, this is the heavy design stuff. This is I would say the quirkiness, the blur stuff, the speed stuff, the funky formations, going fast. But now it's a lot of just traditional concepts. I would say Chip's run game stuff is very traditional based. And you bring up the wing T, and that makes sense. He understands the rules of it. It's not just doing it to do it. I think back in the day with the Oregon stuff, a lot of it was sound, like even more than you would think. There's sometimes they won just with speed of the play and speed of the personnel. And okay, yeah, this guy's running free, but guess what? We got Black Mamba running a 4-3, running right by him. But now they have, okay, all right, well, teams caught up. Teams learned the basic stuff. So they have to be sound with it. So you watch those Ohio State offenses, they did feel very traditional. Like they were very the concepts are staples. Like there was nothing like I watched for Chip Kelly. I'm like, I've never seen someone do that. It's more like, oh, there's some formation stuff that is unique. But I think that translates better to the NFL now because he's playing more by the rules that translate to the NFL. I mean, the literal formation rules. So I really just do think everything that you said is exactly right, where it's almost like he mellowed down and in a way that's going to make him better for the NFL, as opposed to being, oh, I'm so innovative. I'm so doing this. I'm doing this. I'm doing this. But yeah, it's the mix of personnels that he uses now. You mentioned that it used to be super spread, super speed. I think there's a lot more attached formations, which is speaking to tight ends. Really, tight ends is where it stands out to me, is the usage of that. Is because there is more versatility with that. And I think that's a league-wide trend that's happening right now. I kind of talked about on our show, Football 301, that there's a lot more 2+ tight end looks that are sprinkling out throughout the NFL. And I know tight ends have been the next big thing since Nam, but it's really just like this. It's actually happening finally after people have talked about it for 3 decades. It's like, it's now happening. We finally reached 2025 and it's now happening. And I think Chip Kelly is going to be part of that too. And he has the personnel that can make, they still have Michael Mayer, who went through a lot of stuff, it seemed like last year. Michael Mayer and Brock Bowers is a very talented tight end duo. And I mentioned Besh before. He's kind of a hybrid guy. Yeah, I don't know. There's just a lot of funky, cool things he can do. That's traditional concepts, just with some Chip Kelly sprinkling. And
I've heard people say basically Michael Mayer unlocks Brock Bowers in some ways. Just having an extra tight end, big body on the field, can block all that stuff. The 2 tight end thing is a cousin of the 2 running backs thing, which again, I think every sport is going towards what works in video games. Like the Pacers the other night. Throwing those cross court passes just like as deep as possible is what I do in 2K. And the way that I used to do it when they had the college basketball video game, but the way they nerf it is in video games is that those passes are really inaccurate, so they go out of bounds a lot. But in real life, just don't do that. There's no 2K governor where it's like, no, this isn't going to work. That's it. And like, 2 tight ends, 2 running backs, have them run routes in different directions. One of them is going to be open. Pretty simple way to get a guy in space. Even if it's for 6 yards, that's fine. I'm good with it.
It is. It's much better than just going, oh, no, we're going to I formation and pound it right there. Let's try and sprinkle a little bit here. No, it is the true running back stuff. I know like he'll use that too. It's just getting your best 5 on the field. Yeah. And it's not being limited by going like, well, this guy can't do this. Like this tight end can't block the defensive end. Well, it's like, well, just don't have him block him. And we can find a different way to do that. And I think Chip, along with some other coaches in the NFL, are getting a lot better at doing that. Let's just get our best 5 on the field and figure out how to use them. Speaking to your basketball analogy, that's what a lot of basketball teams are doing now. Okay, what's our best final 5? It doesn't matter what the positions are, but make sure they can defend and shoot, obviously. But the same thing with football. It's like, can they block enough? Then that way we can justify having them on the field. Yep.
All right. I'm going to do my first guy. It's a guy we flicked at his issue earlier. He's probably the one of the most important people in the conference, in the AFC. It's Nick Caley, who is the new Houston Texans offensive coordinator. Yes. He's worked under Sean McVay. He's worked under Bill Belichick. And I think the joke is there used to be an old George Steinbrenner line. Nobody's more limited than a limited partner of George Steinbrenner. I think you can make a joke that nobody, when you're the passing game coordinator for Sean McVay, you don't have that much control over the offense, right? But we've seen so much proof of concept with these guys who are just around McVay, who understand the Shanahan, Kubiak, McVay system and all that comes with it. I'm never gonna make those kind of jokes. Like you can say it about Belichick. It's funny because he has worked under Belichick. He's worked in college. It's fine. The fact of the matter is, last year was a complete disaster. And from an offensive line standpoint, they fixed the offensive line a little tiny bit, but the deep ball was nowhere to be found. CJ Stroud went from 58% completion percentage on his deep ball to 35%. I think that he was uncomfortable in the pocket because of how bad Kenyon Green was, frankly. He was just letting guys go. Kenyon Green is now off to Stoutland University, where I'm sure he'll be a Pro Bowler starting in 2026.
That's how it works.
You can start the clock on that. But what I'm really intrigued by is just the easy answers here. They need one of the Iowa State guys who they drafted to pop. That's really it. I think I saw one of our ESPN research people had a really good kind of comparison on when Stroud was throwing to somebody not named Nico Collins last year. It was just not very good. And they had health issues, and Diggs was out, and they battled that all year. But I just think that if Nick Caley is average, the Houston Texans are going to win a bunch of games.
Yeah, it's the O-line can't get worse. And it was. And there's the thing, like the O-line of the Patriots, who were terrible last year, and the O-line of the Texans are different discussions too. It's not just always bad O-line is bad O-line. The Patriots O-line had really good rules. They had no talent.
Right.
The Texans offensive line has some talent. Laramie Tunsil is still a talented player. I know he's traded now, but on top of some other guys they had, but their rules were absolutely awful. And knowing Bobby Slowick's background and what the Shanahan kind of tree of guys is, they put a lot on the offensive line to get it right. They don't put a lot on the quarterback. This is sometimes you kind of have to earn it as the quarterback. I mean, Brock Purdy still doesn't have this jurisdiction yet because of just how the system is. And so, okay, even if I think CJ Stroud is brilliant, I've gotten to interview him and I've watched him. He's a football junkie. And he has no real jurisdiction there. So it has to be on the offensive line to get everything right. And they never got anything right. It was actually just like, it was so frustrating to watch.
50 more pressures in 2024 than 2023.
And so much of it could have been helped by just rules, just guys going to the right spot, which takes work. It takes effort. And if a lot of coordinators, especially first-time coordinators, all right, I know passing game, but I'm going to trust the offensive line coach to get this done. Well, the offensive line coach last year was bad. He was bad when he was with the Colts. And like that is more than anything else. Even you brought up the skill position stuff and they faced a bunch of injuries. The thing is when your receivers get hurt, you go, okay, our quarterback can get these things done. Okay, on third down, he has to pass the ball, play action. We can do things. We can limit the passing tech, but we still have to rely on our talented quarterback. But let's run the ball to ease the load. They had one of the worst run games you'll ever see. them and the Raiders, who we just talked about as well. And where the Raiders was just pure lack of talent, the Texans was like, oh my God, no one's going to the right spot. Like this is just, doesn't matter how good your guys are. Even if they draft this guy in the first round, the second round, they acquire this guy, doesn't matter. Absolutely doesn't matter.
Real quick on that. Defense is figured out. Chris Sims was on the show in like November, and he was like, the defenses show blitz on the left and then come from the right. Like, and that was it. And the problem never seemed to get solved. And it's like, man, I don't know, man. If we're talking about on ESPN 2 at 2 p.m., I feel like, you know, the Colts and the other AFC South teams have figured this out, maybe address it. And my thing is, I said this about Amina's show a couple of days ago. She asked me about the best front offices. And I said, a good front office doesn't let a problem linger for a year. And I think a good coordinator, what's the limit? Does every coordinator solve that kind of problem in what, 2 weeks?
Or at least you get a mini bye or a bye week, and then it should be fixed.
And hey, we're going to retool some stuff. We're going to add an extra bye. Like, you should not. That kind of problem should not linger for a year. That suggests entire season. Yeah. That suggests to me that you're not equipped to be a coordinator at the NFL level. Now, the big thing for me, if you're reading these press conferences, is that CJ Stroud says he has more control at the line. Maybe that was the solution last year. Is, hey, let CJ Stroud see it, let him move guys around, let him change protections. It felt to me like maybe kind of back to the Shanahan thing. There wasn't a lot of control at the line of scrimmage for CJ Stroud. I think that probably hurt him. And it does a disservice to a young quarterback to not give him those looks, because that's how you grow as a quarterback.
That's it. And not to knock on Bobby Sloak or anything, but if you can just look at his resume, he's only been with the Shanahan offenses.
Yeah.
And all those
PFF.
Offenses are when, and PFF, all those offenses are when Shanahan did not allow the quarterback to control the offense. That's the long story. The 2015 to 2016 Falcons, that was the thing that they figured out with Matt Ryan. When LaFleur went to Green Bay, he had to figure that out with Aaron Rodgers, the balance of, hey, this is our early down stuff, but you get to do your quarterback sheriff stuff that you want to do. He won 2 MVPs. The Rams had to go through it with Stafford. Guess what? Sean McVay figured out within the first month of how to do it. I guess who's a really good coach, who Sean McVay. So of course he figured it out. But Sloak has never been in an offense. I mean, you just look when he was even in San Fran. Jimmy G never had this freedom, and Brock Purdy never had this freedom. And so this is all he knows. All right, I'm going to trust the O-line coach. And so that's like what you're saying is just he truly doesn't know he probably doesn't even know how to teach it. And I don't know the guy, but I'm just assuming, because otherwise I would have given my young quarterback, like you said, this is growth. This is actually why I'm bullish still on Caleb Williams, is because of what the mental IQ that he showed about being able to handle all this stuff with the bullets flying. I think Stroud can handle that. So I didn't know that quote though. That's really good. Like, I think that's a really positive sign. Like, give your guy jurisdiction, give him freedom to do that. It makes him make decisions quicker. Even if he's wrong, at least he knows where his issues are coming from. That is where quarterbacks take that next step. Mahomes has gone through this. Josh Allen is one of the best pre-snap guys now. You see how quickly he gets through stuff now. Lamar is getting even more freedom under Todd Monken. That's the next step these guys always have to take. But the coach has to allow them to do that. So I think that's a really positive sign.
You know who's really good pre-snap? Cameron Ward.
Yes, he's really good. Very good pre-snap. Yes,
he's also the thing. I don't want to do this again. The things he does after the snap, where he's like knows where everybody is, like he is just hyper aware of everything. There was a snap in Gainesville. I happened to be right there, where Xavier Restrepo went false started and pretended to be in motion, and he got away with it. And Cam just looked at him like, pre-snap. What it was like, come on, man. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? And then and it probably was like a 12-yard completion afterwards. Yeah. But literally, like, he's just so hyper aware. He sussed that out immediately. He's like, we're doing a fake motion because you jumped early. All right, whatever. We'll handle this. Yeah. And he got away with it. It was amazing. It was amazing to see. College refs, baby. College refs.
Oh man, we're going through college film, man. It's every time I go through the scouting process or the draft process, I'm always just like dunked into college football film and watching refs and watching quarterback play and offensive line play. And I come back and I'm like, whoa, what was that?
College baseball.
That's a great point with Cam Moore.
College baseball. these guys, I'm just like, so it'll be like 3-1 and the hitter's hitting like, hasn't hit since March. And it's like, well, he'll just, because we're just so used to, we watch so much more MLB baseball than college baseball. Yeah. So our brain, it's not like college football. We've been watching it since we were 3 years old. So you're watching it and you're going, well, of course he's going to throw a strike here. We're just going to get me over fastball. Yep. We're all going to be good here. Right. And then it's just like 8 feet off the plate. And you're just like, what just happened, bro? What just happened? Come on, man.
Did you see the Oregon play with the ump at the home plate?
Yeah.
Speaking of unbelievable. That's a great point with college baseball too, is because in football, they go straight from college football to the NFL. Yeah. There's no minor league baseball to polish them up for 4 or 5 years. So we watch these guys and it's like, oh yeah, these guys, I'm right there with you. I was watching the Tennessee pitcher and he had actually he was pretty good, but then he had 2 same exact thing. I could tell where the catcher was spotted inside lower half with outside upper half. It was like you couldn't miss that spot.
Miami had one last night where it was a 3-2 count, like a huge situation, and the guy just literally he hit the batter's foot, like back foot. Like it wasn't even, it was the most insane pitch I've ever seen.
Just missed the spot a little bit.
Yeah, just a bit outside. All right. No, what I was going to say was that we're talking about Slowick. Adjustments are the hardest thing coaches can do. And what's funny is even some of the greats, it takes them a couple of years. Remember, Sean McVay took 1.5 years to figure out the 6-1. Chip Kelly in San Francisco was out of ideas, Nate. Like that's why it's so impressive now to come back after UCLA and out of Ohio State and have this new thing, because a lot of these guys have one idea, they don't have 2. And Slowick, maybe he's going to be a good coach in a couple of years. I don't know. It's not. He can go and learn this stuff. He can go be a position coach with one of those guys for the next 5 years and then come back and say, hey, I know how to empower my quarterback. We're not saying, the one thing I've gotten less militant about is that idiots stay idiots in football. And like maybe a guy is a complete clown show right now, but like I'm talking about coaches, give him 2 years. Give him 2 years to reinvent himself. And we laugh all the time and we say, hey, this coach isn't going to do this or this coach isn't going to do that. Like there's a level of growth here where it's like, again, San Francisco Chip Kelly, legitimately a bad offensive coordinator. Like no ideas. Everybody had figured his stuff out. 10 years later, he's back and he's our number 1 coordinator, right? Our number 1 new coordinator. It's all about growth. And I've become more humble about the ability for guys to change mid-career as coaches.
And especially, I appreciate the ones that do try to change too. I see a lot. And the ones that flame out are the ones that don't want to change or get better. And you can tell that they're stuck in their ways. I'm telling you, all these guys are so young relatively to what it used to be that they have more room for growth. If you're getting hired as an OC at 36, okay, you can flame out and then get your next shot 10 years later. You're still 46, which used to be the time guys were first getting their first shots at it. So no, I just saw,
I swear to God, I just saw, looking at the Jets offensive coordinator, Tanner Engstrand. And he was born 1982. And I was like, oh, he's old. Like it's like it's like the European soccer thing where it's like, oh, he's 19. Oh no, I don't want that.
Old.
Like if someone is not my age getting hired as a first-time coordinator, I assume that they are not.
That's it.
That they're just over the hill.
You're the baseline.
Might as well get ready for the senior tour, big boy. All right.
No, great point. But speaking about the changes stuff, that's what's funny too. Not funny, but something I admire with Shanahan and McVay is that everyone thinks zone, bootleg. And what they have morphed their offenses into the last few years. And I think that's just really cool that they were the quote unquote innovators or the leaders of this stuff. And then they go, actually, we're not going to throw our fastball anymore. We're going to start changing it because defenses are evolving and we need to evolve too. That takes so much confidence and self-reflection that I don't think a lot of guys have. Yes, they get the leeway to do these things, but you said Chip Kelly ran out of ideas. What I think is funny is how the cyclical nature of football is just that now teams are going back to under center and dropping back from under center. I wrote about it recently and talked about it. And the ones that are leading the charge are the 49ers, the Rams, the Vikings. All the Shanahan guys are the ones doing it the most, which is, again, it's the irony of that I think is very funny.
I mean, the master is Belichick, who ask your kids ask your parents. Before he was a social media star, he was an NFL coach, and he went from 3-4 to 4-3. He invented huge, but he didn't invent the 3-4, but he might as well have. He did so much with the 3-4. And then he realizes that, so there was 2 times that he did this. One was during the lockout, where he basically said, it's really hard to teach this with limited training camp and no OTAs, so we're just going to run a very basic defense this year. Okay, there was that. Then he switched again at one point. I don't know what year this was, but he talked about it in a Friday press conference. And if you don't remember this, Fridays, Bill Belichick would always give these basically history lessons on football. And he'd be talking about Tom Landry, and he'd talking about, Crazy Legs Hirsch and all this stuff, right? And what he said was, when he initially went from the 3-4 to the 4-3, he had popularized it so much they could no longer find nose tackles. And the whole point was, we're running this because we didn't have the bodies to run a 4-3. Well, if the bodies to run a 4-3 were easier to find, then just run a 4-3. And that's, I think now when I look at McVay and Shanahan and all these adjustments, they're adjusting their personnel just like the greatest coach I've ever seen. And I think that is so important. It's basically, he said, all of a sudden, no 3-4 bodies are not dropping to us in the draft, and they're not affordable to us in free agency. So what do? Stop running a 3-4. Yeah. That to me is a sign of great coaching.
And I mean, that's just the whole Moneyball thinking. It's not just the walks and getting on base. It's just finding the advantages. This is getting underutilized right now. Let's take advantage of that. And right now, and just looking at the Rams and look at their offensive line, that doesn't look like a Shanahan zone heavy offensive line. They have gigantic maulers on the offensive line because everyone went light and athletic on defense and offensive line, really. But on defenses have never been lighter than they are now. Okay, so let's get big burly guys to mow them down. It sounds so simple, but also you just got to realize what's going on in the league and reflect on that and change and adapt to that. So just speaking to how the best coaches, they figure out where the league is going and what they can find and what they can do.
All right, do you have a third guy?
Yeah, I got a few.
Let's go. Let's do them all.
Klayton Adams, Cowboys.
Oh, yeah.
This is
let's go. Cowboys clip. You're clip farming.
I know. Yeah. Social is like, yes.
Bang, bang, bang.
Found this one. Can we get the Jets in there too? Can we get Shadur in there? No, the Cowboys, Klayton Adams coming over from the Arizona Cardinals. Been very keen on the Cardinals the last few years and what Jonathan Gannon's building down there. Sneaky playoff team this year. I think the defense is going to be really good. Not really good. Good. Much better than they've been. And I also think the offense
Miles, play the clip for the TV version on Friday. Play Mike McDaniel right now talking about Jonathan Gannon and how amazing his defense is. Play that right now.
Boom.
All right, come back. We're back.
Love that. Well, even I already mentioned this, but when I interviewed CJ Stroud, one of the clips I showed him was one against the Cardinals defense from 2 years ago. And he goes, it's just such a funky defense to go in. And this is when they were terrible, but they just do a lot. Nick Ross is a defensive coordinator. I have a background with him. I know his brother, went to high school with his brothers. But Nick is just doing really, it was by necessity because they just had no talent, but now they're just doing now they got talent. So that's why I'm really keen on them. But getting to Klayton Adams, he was, the offensive line coach, and really you could see his with the Cardinals, former player. You could see his fingerprints all over that Cardinals offense. That was very traditional, but I mean that in a good way. Very sound run game, very sound pass protection plan, very burly, very at you, gap heavy. Makes sense because of the running back, but also I just think the philosophy of that offense, which I'm always going to be a fan of. I just thought the rules were really good. Couldn't be more opposite of the Texans, who only ran zone and had terrible pass protection rules. That's what Adams brings. And I think what I like what the Cowboys are trying to build in the sense that it's not just, it's lip service. We're going to run the ball and we're going to do this, this, and that. It's like, no, they got a guy that can actually do this. And I think they're enabling him to do this. I really like this hire. I thought it was a good one because I think there's proof of what Adams has put together in the past. And now he's the OC. It's really more like a run game coordinator, but I think that him with Schottenheimer, that's a nice pairing. And I think what they want with the offense makes sense for what Dak likes as well. Obviously the pass game is going to be like that, but I think the run game is going to mold with or merge with that as well. I just really like this hire. I'm actually more bullish on the Cowboys than I thought I would be a few months ago. And this is one of the reasons why, because I think this was a sound good hire because it's an indicator of what they're trying to do, but it's not just lip service. It's this guy actually has proof and a resume of what he's put together in Arizona.
Okay. You were bullish. That's great. I'm happy for you. So I went on ESPN the other day, and I said that the George Pickens acquisition immediately makes them better. That's the great news. The bad news is I don't see a path where they're anything but the third best team in
their division,
the NFC East. Okay, and frankly, I don't know if there's a division more locked in for me. Like more like we're done here. I don't need to watch any games.
Like, you know, the
NFC East. I know exactly what it's going to be. Okay, and it's what Vegas says. And what I was stunned by was how many Cowboys fans were in my DMs and my mentions being like, "You're a moron. How could you possibly think this?" Even the most optimistic Cowboys fans got to be looking at Jaden Daniels and this Commanders team and going, "Ooh, it's an uphill climb." Can you explain to me? Just, again, best case scenario, this is not binding, how the Cowboys bridge that gap. If the Cowboys finish second in the division over the Commanders, it's because what?
Well, the Commanders defense just doesn't take any step forward. That's the big, and the Commanders are going against a much tougher schedule this year than they did last year. So that is the drop off. I love that you brought up the Connerly pick and the Tunsil trade that the Commanders made as well. That I think even if they, I don't want to call it luck, but because they were very aggressive on fourth down, they converted a lot on fourth down. Say you have some natural regression there. That's where you're hoping the offensive line and other improvements of the offense, Deebo Samuel as well, can negate that a little bit. So you can still have that top 8 offense that's really tough for defenses to go against. I think the defense is just, it's not very good. And even with what I think they did make some improvements and everything, it's not where I thought they should go. So I know we're talking about the Cowboys, but I think the Commanders and Cowboys are more equal than you would think. I do think the Eagles are the clear class of this division, but I think there's just that, I think both of the Cowboys and the Commanders as like 10-ish win teams, maybe at best for the Cowboys. And I think they're going to be more battling for it. Well, I think the Cowboys offense, the Pickens, trade and everything, that does help out the offense. Running back room, I do like, some of the things that they've done, but it's also just like, I wish, they maybe invested a little harder than Jadon Blue, weighs 190 pounds in the 5th round, but I do like him. He's like an H-hand Diet Coke version of him, but I do like where the offense is with some health stuff, some offensive line improvement. Got to see more from Guyton. And I think that defense in the second half of last year when Micah Parsons came back was a terror. Even with some of the other stuff that they had going on the back end, Micah Parsons was so good last year. Man on a mission in the second half of last year. That got me kind of bullish and optimistic about what they could be this year. So that's why I think, where is their win total right now? I don't even know. They're at
the Cowboys?
They're at 7.5.
7.5. Yeah, I looked it up.
I'm over on that, but I'm not saying 12-win team. I'm saying more a 9-win team, maybe 10. But I would say if you asked me this in January, what I thought about the Cowboys or Super Bowl week on the Cowboys, I'm like, whatever, like 7-win team again. They're frustrating. They're not doing anything, blah, 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 blah. They've done a lot of little things that have maybe more bullish that they could be that second team in the NFC East.
All right. I'm going to just quickly shout out my last guy. It's Robert Saleh. I thought the Bryce Huff trade we're talking about important here. First of all, Robert Saleh is a great example when you look at the success he had in 49ers, and they had a better roster with Saleh than they did the last couple of years. But they're retooling on the defensive side. They're getting these young guys in. They're getting guys like Bryce Huff in. They now have 3 ex-Jets on that roster. I'm intrigued to see his kind of rehabilitation school. But I think there's certain guys where being a coordinator, again, first of all, you're a little overqualified because you were a head coach. Second of all, he was put in a bad situation with the Jets. Everybody fails with the Jets. I think Robert Saleh might be a good head coach someday. I don't know. I think it's certainly in play. We're talking about professional growth.
I'm not out on
We'll
him.
see. No. But also, I think he's going to be energized. I think the Jets thing was draining on him. I don't think he's beaten down. And I think he's in a good situation. I was reading some quotes from Brandon Staley in New Orleans. Man, there's just not a lot of talent there. And I don't think that's necessarily going to work. But I'm looking at Robert Saleh and looking in San Francisco and saying, all right, bunch of young guys, energy, probably a good team in a good situation. Saleh's going to give them enough to win a bunch of games.
I like this. Well, obviously I like the hire. I thought Saleh, the Jets is just such a mess. They got Saleh Rodgers and everything. And look what happened to that Jets defense last year after he got fired. They went from a top 5 unit to bottom 5, and without, I mean, there's some injuries, but nothing crazy that should lead to that. And that just speaks, it's not a overly complex defense, but what really unlocks is they really want their guys to play fast. He has more Legion of Boom to him than a lot of coaches that came from that kind of system. Even if he's not a direct or a perfect descendant, he's part of that tree, where he lets guys tee off, runs only a couple coverages, but he lets guys play fast. Fred Warner helps a lot, but letting the pass rushers go. It's not only just Saleh coming back, and I know what he is. I think he has a high baseline as a coach. Do I think he's going to reach the highs this year of what he left San Fran? No, but I do think it's going to be a top half unit. And I think they ate their vegetables this offseason a little bit. I love the Michael Williams pick. Like that was one of my favorite selections of the first round, really one of my favorite selections of the draft, because it indicated to me what they're trying to do. If Michael Williams might never be more than a 6, maybe 8 sack guy, but he's an outstanding run defender. And then now they got Bryce Huff, and Michael Williams, what he can do is kick inside. This is what unlocked the 49ers when they made the first Super Bowl run. It was that they could kick Eric Armstead and DeForest Buckner across the defensive line and have some beef and have some pass rush juice. It helps when you have Nick Bosa, of course. But that to me, it was just like an indicator, like this is a defense that really fell off against the run the last few years. Had some stats on this, but they had their worst rushing success rate last year. They had their worst, shortest average third down to go for opposing offenses. They were getting beat up on early downs because they're putting so much on Fred Warner. Dre Greenlaw didn't come back to the last month of the year. Devondre Campbell was a negative player who basically quit on the team. The rest of their defensive line, Javon Hargrave was a talented player. He ended up being not a good fit as far as his style for what they needed. They needed more beef space eaters on the inside. They just got Hargrave is a good player, but he's a gap shooter. And so they needed more guys to keep Fred Warner clean. And it's like, oh, well, you're doing so much for Fred Warner. It's because he's one of the best players in the league, and he really changes the game. So you want to keep him clean. So not only just with the Saleh hire, I just think these other little personnel tweaks, the little additions that they made on top of Huff, but Michael, I really like that because, again, that indicates to me that they realized what the issue was. It wasn't just getting after the passer, a little bit, but stopping the run so we can get after the passer on third down. And I just really liked it. I think Williams and Bosa are perfect, synergized defensive ends that you want this type of defense.
Love this. Love it. Love this team. I still think the Rams are going to win the NFC West. All right. Shout out your remaining guys before we get out of here.
I also had Josh McDaniels with the Patriots.
Yes.
Just
do you want to talk about
see
that?
what he does with Drake May? Yeah, I think we're just talking about guys.
Yeah,
the Peter principle. McDaniels is the example of it. Like, I really like him as a coordinator and a play caller. It's gonna be organized. Is he the most amazing, innovative guy ever? No, but it's very sound. And now he's got a quarterback that's tough, and I think he's gonna unlock him. Also, the run game stuff. That's what I'm curious. Not just running back run game, the Drake May run game, because of what Josh McDaniels did with Cam Newton in 2020. Same guy that drafted Tim Tebow, by the way.
Right.
But it's
and that year, Stephon Diggs in the locker room, obviously going to be extremely popular.
Always fun. Always entertaining. So I'm excited to see that, because that Cam Newton, Josh McDaniels pairing is one of my favorite quirky offenses I've watched since I've been in media. And so I got Drake May, and
I loved that pairing, and then
it was so fun.
It devolved.
It was so random. You couldn't get more of a style clash.
It was a great first 2.5 weeks.
It was. September was a lot of fun.
It was so special.
That Seahawks game will always have it. The last one I had was Dennis Allen, defense coordinator with the Bears. So that would be my last one that I wanted to shout out there, because
at the beginning of this episode, we played an interview with Dave Canales where he says that Dennis Allen is the hardest coach for him to go against in football, because he is so good at taking away their principles.
Yep, I agree with that. And yes, and they're really good at testing your protection rules. He doesn't just blitz; he'll run the simulated creeper stuff, where they're only rushing 4, but he's really good at testing them. Like, he's going to make sure your running backs can protect. And I really like that, and just changing math on guys. Yeah, I think Dennis Allen's a great defensive mind. I know the Bears sucker everybody in every year, but I'm actually taking the bait this year. I don't know playoffs or anything, but I think they're going to be a lot of fun this year.
I agree. But then everybody smarter than me, I run this by, goes, I'll believe it when I see it. Okay, fine. It's the Bears.
I want to get out in front on this one.
Me too. No, me too. Me too.
I was so pessimistic last year. I was so bearish last year. And then I'm like, no, I'm buying it this year. I'm finally buying it this year.
With the Bears, it's whatever. Fans, even the fans are kind of like, yeah, maybe.
Again,
like they were so beaten down. The opposite. I see the other day. I said the Bucs in a couple of years are going to be like real deal Super Bowl contenders, and I had like 10 people be like, "You idiot! They're real deal Super Bowl contenders right now." And it's like, come on, man, you can't. You're really mad at me for saying that. I said
a couple of years.
Come on, man.
I said you're like, Super Bowl contenders, not number
Super
one
Bowl contenders,
pick.
not like Also, this like. Did you guys watch the Eagles? Like that's my thing. Is like
right.
Watch the Eagles and then say how far away are we from that? Because that's why Jordan Rodriguez and I did Eagles tier for the NFC tiers, because it's like if you don't have the capability to have that roster,
right? Yeah.
Where's that coming from? Where's that coming from? I don't know. The gap. We're talking about gaps. Whatever. All right, Nate Tice. I spent too long with you. Tell us where people can listen to you.
Football 301. Check us out. Me, Charles McDonald, Matt Harmon. I'm going to be taking paternity leave soon, though. But we have a lot of episodes taped.
Wait, you are?
Baby number 2's coming. I don't think I ever told you that. Yay!
When is that happening?
Baby girl. Probably in about 10 days ish. We're
holy cow! I'm glad we got you under the wire here.
No, you got me right before. Like I'm doing my last little media appearances. But yes, check out Football 301.
It's great. It'll be a real Ewing theory once you leave with Charles and Matt. So that'll be great. So people can look forward to that. And then your son, is your son still comically large?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's still 100th top in the scale.
100th percentile?
Yeah.
How old is he and how tall? My son is 31 inches and he's something.
He's 36 inches.
Okay. But I think yours is a little older than mine. But I don't think he's going to be 36.
Yeah. He just turned 2.5.
Okay. My son's a couple months away from that. It's 31 inches. I went to a Mets game over the weekend. You are no longer free when you're over 32 inches.
Oh, is that the height limit?
Yeah, that's the height. Yankees are 3 and under. Mets are 32 inches.
I don't know if I like that. I'll
tell you what. Well, the reason I don't like it is, I'll tell you something. 4.5-year-old Teddy Glazer Clark is going to be very much a fake 2-year-old in Yankee Stadium. With the Mets, the 32 inches thing, there's no fudging that. I'm going to dress him up like as childish as you can possibly get to get into Yankee Stadium. Oh, of course he's 2 years old. Like I'm going to, give him a big lollipop or something, like give him a pacifier.
Spinning hat.
Look at this 2-year-old. Like, hey, buddy, don't talk. Don't talk.
Yeah, you're just
8 minutes in the security line. Yeah. And with the Mets, it's like, hey man, he's 42 inches. He's got a tattoo. He has a tattoo. Wait, you're like, come on.
That's funny. So like my son Jack, he can ride carnival rides now because he's so tall.
Now we're talking.
And there's a couple that my wife took him. I was out of town. I'm trying to remember what this was. So it might have been some of the why I was out of town. Oh, the draft. Yeah. and so I'm out of town, and she sent me pictures, and she's like, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, he can go on that ride because he's tall enough. Have to remember he's 2.5.
Should he?
It's I have to make the cut. I have to make the decision of like, yes, technically he is tall enough, but is he old enough? And so sometimes being tall.
We had that at Disney. We had that at Disney on some stuff where it's like, this is for everybody. This ride is for children. And then it's like, is it really? Is it really? Is it really? All right, Nate Tice, thank you so much, buddy.
Thanks for having me, Kevin. This was a lot of fun.